Time is now 5:36 on Monday morning. I don't really have time for another trip, because if I was to take one now, then I would, and if it was even a short one, then I would have to rush to the gas station and fuel up. This way, I just came from the bank, I made a deposit. This Sunday night was a lot better than last week. I did 240 instead of 150, so that's all right. I made a profit. Okay, there is hope yet. I think those Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday last week was just because it was the first week of the month, and the first week of the month historically it has been slow in the past. So there you go. Now I'm going to head to the gas station, I'm going to fuel up, then I'm going to go park it and go home. I'm tired. I'm not tired of driving. Most of what I was doing is sitting around and waiting all night. On the previous Thursday night, I had a call where I picked up this guy, and he was smoking marijuana, and he got in the car and exhaled while telling me the address he was going to. Now, that car smelled cloyingly of weed the whole night. Now, somebody drove it on Friday, somebody drove it on Saturday, somebody drove it on Sunday, and I had it Sunday night now. And when I went in the back to straighten out the mat, I smelled weed. So whatever you do, if you're smoking marijuana, if you're smoking weed, please don't exhale when you get in the cab. Exhale before you get in the cab, because that odor hangs around and hangs around and hangs around. I personally find it quite offensive. Other people do too. Just thought I'd pass that on to you. Anyways, I got 4 nights to go this week, and I'm hopeful that it will be a better week than last week. And here we are at the gas station. This particular Monday night was a strange one, in that after about 45 minutes of waiting, I got my first trip. And it took 2 hours of waiting for the second one. The third trip happened about an hour after that. And fortunately, each one was $20, but I had $60 on by 10 o'clock. I think it took me till 1 o'clock to break my lease. And then I got a call from a friend of mine to take her somewhere. And then I had a couple more trips. I was taking one guy home from where he works at a restaurant at about 1 o'clock, and I was about to get back to the parking lot where I usually hang out, but then I got sent to a convenience store at Quadra and Mackenzie. And that guy went out to Mount Newton Crossroad, gave me $45. And he said he's going to need another cab back in about half an hour, an hour. I said, okay. So he said, well, how do I reach you? I said, just call the office. Just call for a cab like you did before. And so then I made sure that I was in a position to get the call from where he was. I ended up getting that call, and that was good for another $50 to get back into town, and he did a little bit more monkeying around. So the fare came out to about $64. He gave me another $40 on top of the $50 he gave me before. So I got $90 for a $64 fare. And then I had a couple more trips, and it worked out all right. I ended up with about $310. So then I went to the bank to deposit a lot of cash. I deposited some cash, and I made my way over to the car wash to wash the car. Then I detailed the interior. Yeah. Now the interior is detailed. And then I went to fuel up. And now I'm gonna park it and let the owner have his fun today, now that I cleaned everything. Oh, these people park in such a way that it's real awkward. See if I can stick it in that space there. It's gonna be a tight one. I think it's gonna be much too tight. You know what? I think I'm right. It's gonna be too tight. Oh, this guy had to take 2 places with 1 car. Oh, cackadooey. Well, you know what? I'm gonna just put it right. I'm just gonna put it right here. And let the owner deal with it. Yay, hooray. It is done. I go home now, and then I go to the chiropractor, get my back alignment done. 3 more nights to go this week. I hope they're as successful as this night was. My entire morning was wasted. I cleared from the last trip that paid me anything at about 11:45. By about 1 o'clock, I received a call to go pick up somebody at a homeless shelter. And he wanted to go to several different places, one after another, other homeless shelters and places like that. And he would say, every time we'd come to a stop somewhere, he'd ask me to pause the meter. So I paused the meter, and he would take a long time to come back. And we did a whole tour of different homeless shelters and places like that, where it looked like he was doing drug deals. Then he went home to an address. And when we were on our way there, he asked me to call his mother on my phone and put it on speaker. So he talked to her to let him in the building, I guess. And so he said he'll come back with the money to pay. He left some of his stuff in the car, and he took some stuff with him. He took a while to come back, but he did come back. He says, oh, we're going out again. So we went out again to some of the same places where he had been before. Different places, one after another, after another, after another, after another. And then after the last one, he wanted to go back home. So I took him home again. And he took a long... He didn't come back right away. He said, oh, okay, I'll get the card to pay you. He never got the... He left stuff in the car, you know. Never came... He didn't come back for a long time. It got to the point where I called his mother to ask if he was still in there, to, you know, that he hadn't paid. And then after talking to her, she said he's not here. I'm going, really? Okay. That's when I called the police. And I told them the whole story. And then I was waiting for the police for about 20 minutes. They never showed up. And then the guy showed up. And he wanted to go again. And we went again. And this time, I told him that I called his mother and called the police. And he says, okay, well, we have to go to another place now. So we went to that other place, and sure enough, he was making me wait again. And the police showed up this time, and I told them all that was going on. And he still had his stuff in the car, and he wasn't coming back, and he probably knew what was going on. And the police said, well, I have no problems with throwing his stuff out. Throw it out. So I did. I didn't make any money all morning. There was about $100 on a meter, and that was after several times of pausing it. Anyway, 2 more nights to go this week. What a waste of time, and stress the whole time too. Just stress. At the beginning of my Wednesday night, I was busy. It was one right after another, just one right after another, nonstop. Just busy, stinking busy. One right after another till about 11 o'clock. So from 6 till 11 was solid. I think I had about $220 on by, or more, $250 on, or so by midnight. I did have a good trip between 11 and midnight, but only one trip. So then I had another trip between 12 and 1, another good trip. Then things were really quiet until between 1 and 4. I did get some calls. I got a few calls between 1 and 4. But you know what happened? Those calls were canceled as soon as I got them. One of them I was able to drive to the end of the block before it was canceled. But some of them were canceled even before I was able to move at all. So that was just a joke. Anyways, then after 4 o'clock, I started to get a few calls again. And oh, that thing is bright. That thing is real bright. I should pull out my sunglasses. Anyways, yeah, it worked out. It worked out really well. I've got something like 330 on, which is good, considering that I took a 3-hour break with no business. So things were looking up tonight, and I found out the reason why it was so busy before 11 is because half the fleet was in a meeting. They decided to hold a meeting because they're going to elect a new board of directors or the same board of directors for our taxi company. Hopefully it's not the same guys, because oh my gosh, what a disaster it's been. But sometimes we can do all right. And I was able to take advantage of this one. And it kind of made up for the sorry night I had before, where my entire morning was wasted by some clown who's completely crazy and off his rocker. Anyway, may I never see him again. I'm going to the gas station now to fuel up. The time is 6:08. 6:08. It's a good time to be fueling up. And then I'm gonna go park it and go home. I've already washed it. Yeah, one more night to go this week. The time is now 6:02 in the morning. It is Friday morning. This is my beginning of my weekend as soon as I park this thing. Now, I have had some incredible good luck tonight. I guess it started around 10 o'clock or just before 10 o'clock, where I was sent to a homeless shelter, and this woman who was hunchback, and she had one of these granny grocery cart things that you pull behind you, and she wanted to go to Walmart and get a 6-man tent. Now, the reason she wanted a 6-man tent was so that she could pitch that tent and be outside of the room to which she was assigned, because she was assigned to this room where these people had a dog. They share rooms apparently in these shelters, and this one, the roommates had a dog, and she had a cat, and the cat was hiding from the dog all the time. So she wanted to go to Walmart to get a 6-man tent. Then we got there, and she gave me $10. It was 9 something. And she also gave me her phone and her wallet. I said, well, what are you giving me this for? She says, I want you to wait. I'm just going to be in there and right out. I'm going, oh, okay. Well, why don't you just call one when you need one? And she says, well, I want you to be waiting for me, because I don't want to wait around for another cab. Okay, so she goes up there, because there's like an escalator that goes up to the Walmart from the underground parking garage. That was the underground parking garage where I just started this segment. So she goes up, and a few minutes later she comes down, and I was surprised she was back so soon. And she still had her shopping cart, but she had no 6-man tent, and then she was complaining about the security guards, and she says, take me back where we started. Okay. So I take her back, and so I say, well, yeah, now you owe me another $12.65. And she says, I have to go get it from my friend. So she opens up the door, and she's taking her granny cart with her, and I say, can you leave that behind? She completely disregards what I say, and she goes to someone on the sidewalk, and she talks to a couple people, and then she goes into the building, and that's the end of that. And I'm going, okay, so I got ripped off. Now, not too long after that, I got another call, and this call went out to Highland Road, which was quite a good distance from where we were. And this whole night was quite memorable, because as we were passing my generous customer's place, we were on the highway. He lives on a side street, and we went right past him when he called me and says, "Can you come? How soon?" I say, "Oh, okay, give me 20 minutes. I'm busy right now." So I dropped off the customer, and then I went to my generous customer, who I didn't want to miss a call with him. So he wanted to go to his mother's place. For what reasons? It's complicated. It's a long story. I don't have time to tell you the whole thing. Anyway, he had to go to his mother's place to check up on something for a short time. And then he got back to the car, and as we were approaching his house, he gave me $60. When we got to the house, it was only $43 on the meter. So I made more than my money that I lost by doing that homeless person thing. Then I got a call. This was at about 2 in the morning. I got a call after waiting 2 hours. I waited 2 hours for a call. Between midnight and 2. And at 2:08, I got awakened by the tablet here going off. And it sent me basically across the street from the parking lot that I usually sit in. And I've never been sent to that address before. And it said out front, So I get there, and well, they left me a phone number. So I called the phone number, and sure enough, she says, "Oh, I'll be right out in a minute." Okay, great. I'll be waiting right outside. And then out of the shadow, I see a figure. I turn on my high beams, and there's this girl. She comes to the car and says she's going out to Langford, Station Road. Okay, fine, good. And we had the most enjoyable, pleasant conversation. One of the best I've ever had in a cab. And she was so pleased, and she had enjoyed the conversation so much that it was like $32 on the meter. She gave me $60 in cash, and she wanted my phone number. So naturally, I gave it to her. She asked me, "Do you have a card?" I said, "Okay, I'll make you up one." So I gave her my card, and she wanted to shake my hand, and it's like, oh, I hope you call again. Anyways, I have her phone number because that's the phone number I got off the system here to call her. So we'll see if she calls me again. I've got her number saved. As soon as I'm dropping her off, I get sent not far away from there, out in Langford, to go pick up somebody. And the call is 20 minutes old. So I get there, and I pick up this guy. He's at a gas station, and he asked me if the casino's still open, and I said, well, isn't it open until 4? Okay, so we went to the casino, which was closed and locked. So he asked me how much to go to Uptown. I said, oh, it'll be about $15, $20 more. And he said, all right, let's go. He said, take me to the Shell station at Uptown. Okay, no problem. I took him to the Shell station, and I ended up getting, I think, another $30 for that. $35, whatever. 32 something. Yeah, whatever. On a tap on a card. Okay, fine. That worked out all right. So after that, I dropped him off right near where I had picked the girl up before. And sure enough, then I had the generous customer call me again at around 4 o'clock and said he had to go again to his mother's house. Then he gave me a big long story about how his brother was supposed to look after his deaf and blind mother or grandmother or something, and he was out, so my generous customer was looking out for her. And so since his brother didn't come home, he ended up staying the second time that I took him out there. Gave me $40 for a $23 ride. And I've just been lucking out. And I've got $363 on, which is very good. Very, very good indeed. And I did it all. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 trips. 15 trips, $360. That's very good. Very, very good indeed. That's an average of more than $20 a trip. Beautiful. So now I'm going to the gas station. I'm going to fuel up. I'm going to park, add up the Interacts, and throw all the charges in the glove box, and go home and call my mother. Hopefully she'll answer. If she doesn't answer, that's not the end of the world. My sister thinks she might be sleeping because she didn't get to sleep last night. She was, what do they call that? Sundowning or daylighting or some damn thing. It's when people who are demented mix up day and night, and it can be 3 in the afternoon and she thinks it's 3 in the morning, or vice versa. It's 3 in the morning and she thinks it's 3 in the afternoon. Well, as we're approaching the gas station now, I'm gonna pull right in there, and I need this phone to figure out how much gas to pour into this thing, because it has like an onboard trip computer that tells you how much fuel you used, or what your consumption is, average consumption, and how far you went, and etc., etc. So I can figure out exactly how much fuel to pump into this thing and get a full tank, and everything is great. So here we are. Oh, I forgot to say, I hope yours is better than mine.